What is up, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and this is where I give commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. Thank you guys so much for joining, and thank you for helping me reach 370. I really appreciate that. But speaking of a three and a something, today, December 18th, is the day of three people: Trish Stratus, RVD, and of course, the reason I got all shaved up and got this t shirt here tonight. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the man back there, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And today, I'm going to give you part two of my top 10 favorite Stone Cold Steve Austin matches. And part one, is already up. Be sure to check that out. Let's get started at number 10. At number 10, we have Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Kane on an episode of Monday Night Raw on my birthday, June 29th, 1998. I turned 4 that day. It was 24 hours after one of the most brutal King of the Ring matches, Hell in a Cell, involving The Undertaker, one of my all time favorite Hell in a Cell matches. But just 24 hours after losing the championship in a first blood match, Stone Cold Steve Austin, with a bad right arm, would take on Kane and win the match. And the crowd in Cleveland, I don't know if Johnny or The Miz were part of the show, but Cleveland was on fire that night as Stone Cold Steve Austin would defeat Kane and regain the World Wrestling Federation Championship in less than 24 hours after losing it. Kane had a very short world title run. Next at number 9, we have Stone Cold Steve Austin returning for the first time in nearly 2 decades to face off against the prize fighter Kevin Owens on night 1 main event of WrestleMania 38, in a match that was built because Kevin Owens decided it was a good idea to talk about the state of Texas, which obviously is a written commandment that you don't do. And Stone Cold was not having it. Now, honestly, many of us thought that this was going to be a Kevin Owens show confrontation, but the confrontation would actually turn into a challenge for the match, as Kevin Owens, who had started using the stunner within the past few years himself, challenged the originator of the stunner in his home state of Texas in front of almost 80,000 people. Stone Cold accepted and fought him in a no holds barred match, and Stone Cold looked like he hadn't lost one step. It was an awesome match. I know when he was stomping him, the stumps looked a little soft, but nonetheless, it was an amazing match between Stone Cold and Kevin Owens on the main event of WrestleMania. And Byron got some too. Next on this list at number 8, we have Stone Cold Steve Austin from WCW as Stunning Steve taking on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat at Bash at the Beach 1994. I was born that year. And also, this was a good match. It was pretty technical. I did not know you could get disqualified for throwing somebody. Let me make sure this thing is straight. Okay. I did not know you could get disqualified for throwing somebody off the top rope or back body dropping somebody over the top rope. But Stone Cold actually survived the Tombstone Piledriver. And I must say, WCW and everybody else that used the Tombstone Piledriver made the finisher of The Undertaker underappreciated in all other companies. But in WWE, Kane and Undertaker made the move look unsurvivable. Speaking of The Undertaker, that gives us number 7. By the way, Stone Cold would win the match and retain the WCW US Championship. But nonetheless, also, even though the name of the song is Satan's Sister, that theme song that Stone Cold had a good sound to it. Now, at number 7, speaking of tombstones, we have Stone Cold Steve Austin versus this exact persona of The Undertaker 1999 at Fully Loaded First Blood match. Now, after Stone Cold had defeated The Undertaker to win the WWE Championship back in Raw of 99, Undertaker challenged for a First Blood match. And the stipulation was that if Austin lost, that he could not challenge for the WWF Championship again. However, if Stone Cold won the match, Mr. McMahon, longtime rival of Stone Cold, would leave the company and would not be seen on screen again. So there was a deal. This match, I really enjoyed it. And luckily for me, I have it on Tombstone History of the Undertaker. And also, you get to play that match on WWE 2K Showcase as well as Ricky the Dragon Steamboat match right here on WWE 2K16. And in this match, they fought in the crowd. Undertaker threw stairs but missed, thankfully. They fought around the arena. And eventually, because The Undertaker had attacked X-Pac earlier in the night, X-Pac sought revenge, interfering, which would give Stone Cold a chance to hit Undertaker with the camera and win the match. But that wasn't it. After the match, Triple H came out to attack Stone Cold. The Rock came out and they continued fighting. Undertaker smashed Stone Cold's head in with a chair. They both ended up bleeding and they both needed security to break them up. And of course, Stone Cold said goodbye to Mr. McMahon the only way he knew how. A shake of hands, but we all knew he was about to stun him. We should know this by now. Next on this list at number 6, we have Stone Cold Steve Austin at King of the Ring 2001, facing off against Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. Now, this was a great match, but because Chris Benoit was in it, with the controversy surrounding him, and also they also had a great match for the WWF Championship on an episode of Raw one time. However, because Chris Benoit has so much controversy, they won't put him on. Nonetheless, this triple threat match at King of the Ring for the WWF Championship was great. Stone Cold defended against two men who tag teamed him. Stone Cold survived a Walls of Jericho and Crippler Crossface at the same time. He survived the interference of first time appearer at that moment, Booker T, going through the announce table. I heard Stone Cold got injured because of that. Nonetheless, he won the match when Chris Jericho did a side suplex from the top rope, injuring Chris Benoit's neck, sending Chris Benoit out for a whole year. But Stone Cold would pin Chris and win the match. Unfortunately, that was the night Chris Benoit broke his neck and had to take a year off. Next at number 5, we have 4 years prior to 2001, we have Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Shawn Michaels at King of the Ring 1997. Let me just say, I don't know, it's no secret that Shawn Michaels is a man of faith and has given his life over to the Lord years later when he took time off because of the back injury. But sometimes I wonder if Shawn Michaels was halfway a piece saved back then, because Shawn Michaels did some pretty nice things, including helping a special needs fan who somehow got over the guardrail, and he helped him out, made sure he was okay, and went on to fight Stone Cold. Stone Cold mocked Shawn Michaels with the Shawn Michaels pose. We saw them do both of their finishers, but apparently issues happened with the referees, and it ended up in a double disqualification. A great match with a controversial ending. Nonetheless, after this match, they would walk off to the locker room, But because they weren't friends, not to mention Stone Cold's DTA principle, they walked side by side like two brothers who didn't trust each other. Like, after you. No, after you. No, after you. I insist, after you. Okay. And just not taking their eyes off of each other. That's what they were like. But the match at the King of the Ring 1997 was great. Another match prior, a year prior, we have at Survivor Series 1996, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret the Hitman Hart. And this was Stone Cold's biggest match since coming to the WWE that I know of. And this was very great. It was pretty technical. We saw a little brawling, but we saw some technical skills from both men. In fact, we even saw Stone Cold use the sleeper hold made famous by Ted DiBiase, the $1 Billion Dream. However, Bret Hart, much like he did at 1992 in Michael Jackson's home state of Indiana at WrestleMania, Stone Cold had Bret for the dream, but Bret countered it into a pinfall 1, 2, 3 and would win this match. So even though Stone Cold didn't win the match, it was still a good match, even though it was on a losing end. Next on this list at number 3, we have Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Shawn Michaels versus the Hart Foundation members British Bulldog and the late Owen Hart. A match where Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels on an episode of Raw in May of 26, 97, they would win the tag team championships from the Hart Foundation as Shawn Michaels would go for Sweet Chin Music to Bulldog as Owen and Stone Cold would fight it out. After that, after Owen Hart and Stone Cold were fighting, Shawn Michaels, like I mentioned, went for the Bulldog Sweet Chin Music. Stone Cold would pin the Bulldog, and Shawn and Austin would win the Raw Tag Team Championships in 97. And fun fact, at King of the Ring, Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold fought as tag team champions. Next at number 2, this would be number 1, but I don't want to put the number 1 match as a match that was in a losing effort. It wouldn't seem right. But at number 2, we have Stone Cold Steve Austin versus arch nemesis Triple H at No Way Out 2001, 3 stages of hell in one of my favorite cities, Las Vegas. This was a end rivalry match where these two beat the helicopter out of each other, and both men would end up bleeding. The first fall was a traditional match that Stone Cold won. The second fall was a cage match in wait a minute, which one was first? I think the cage match was second. Just like at Armageddon 2002, the cage match was second. But in any event, the cage match was second, and it was no holds barred at the end. But nonetheless, this match, the next 2 stipulations, Triple H would win the match and would end it with a sledgehammer and a barbed wire hitting both competitors at the same time. But as luck would have it for Triple H landed on Austin first, and fate would be in favor of Triple H winning the match. However, Stone Cold Steve Austin did get the last word in within this nearly 5-star match. But even though Stone Cold lost, got the last word. Let's go to number 1. We have Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock at Backlash 1999, a rematch from WrestleMania 15 as Stone Cold won the championship. Now, Stone Cold had been looking to get the Broken Skull belt back, and Shane wasn't having it. Shane tried to put the odds up against The Rock, Stone Cold, where Shane could not be touched. Otherwise, he would lose. And fun fact, Stone Cold and The Rock, when you get Stone Cold and you get The Rock, we have inspiration for today's wrestler, L.A. Knight. Yeah. But before L.A. Knight was a star, we had Stone Cold and The Rock. And these two are what inspired the man we have on SmackDown today. Now, this match was great, but one of my favorite match parts about this match was when The Rock held the camera and then said, "The Rock hates you, you living piece of trash. Look at the people." And then turned around. Stone Cold's got fingers. Stone Cold Stunner on the announce table. And Mr. McMahon would come out and count the pinfall for Stone Cold Steve Austin fair and square, winning the match and not only retaining the WWE Championship, but regaining his Broken Skull Championship. So that does it for my favorite matches from Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is part two. Part one, as I said, was already up. So be sure to check that out and let me know in the comment section below what is your all-time favorite Stone Cold Steve Austin match and which one was your favorite from part two. Let me know in the comment section below. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and I will see you next time. And remember, Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.